Good Monday morning, algebra students. We are going to be factoring again today. We're going to start with 2x squared plus 11x plus 15. Now, the difference between today's factoring and last week's factoring is we now have a number here that is not 1. So we're going to have to run things a little bit differently, but I think you guys should be able to catch on. And you can actually do the method we're doing today for every single factoring assignment that you'll get. So if you forget, I don't know when I should use this or when we should use the one last week, as long as you use the one from this week, you should be okay with everything. Okay, so we're going to make the x here. And remember, this was a times c over b. So a was 2, b is 11, c is 15. So we have to take a times c. 2 times 15 is 30. And our b value goes to the bottom, that's 11. So now you can pause your video if you'd like. We're going to find two numbers that multiply to 30 and add up to 11. Well, I know 6 times 5 is 30, and when I add it, I get 11. Okay, now we have to make a box. Now this is called factoring by grouping here. And we're going to organize it using a box. So this is the reverse of when we had a binomial up here and a binomial on the side and we were multiplying to fill in the squares. We're just backing it up. We're reversing it. Okay, so I am going to rewrite this equation, actually this polynomial. But once again, I'm going to neglect the middle and we're going to put the x values instead. So 2x squared is at the beginning. 15 is at the end. And now I use my numbers I just got. We're going to use 6 and 5. Now, since our middle had an x, we need to put an x with the 6 and an x with the 5. Because 6x plus 5x is 11x, we're just writing it differently. Now I have to factor out what they have in common. So if I look at these, they're both divisible by 2 and they have an x in common. So we have a 2 and an x. Then I'm going to look at these two boxes. Okay, what do they have in common? What's their greatest common factor? Well, I know a 5 goes into both of them. Now, my first box here is positive, so it has to be a positive 5. Then I move on to these two squares. What do 2x squared and 5x have in common? Well, they don't have anything in common with the 2 and the 5, but I can pull out 1x. Then I go to the next one. What do a 6x and 15 have in common? Well, the greatest common factor between 6 and 15, the biggest number that goes into both, is 3. My top box is positive, so I put a plus sign in here. They do not both have an x, so I can't factor out an x. So when I'm writing my factors, we have x plus 3 times 2x plus 5. Now, the only difference here is if I would have switched the 5 and the 6, these would have been flipped. And it doesn't matter which one you write first. However, on your assignment, there will be something that looks like this. Okay, that means it needs to have the x version written first. So in my first box, I'm going to put a plus 3. Make sure you put your plus sign or you're going to get it wrong. On the next one, it needs a number in front of the x. Well, the number that goes in front of the x is a 2. And to finish it off, we need plus 5. So in my first box, I would put plus 3. My second box, I have 2. And my third box, I have to have my plus sign again for plus 5. Okay, now if I was to actually check my work, I could put x plus 3 on the top of my box like we did before, 2x plus 5, multiply it out, combine like terms, and it's going to get us back to 2x squared plus 11x plus 15. Okay, the next one we're going to factor is 3x squared minus x minus 4. So I'm going to make my x. I know that a times c goes at the top, so 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. My b is negative 1. It goes to the bottom. So two numbers that multiply to negative 12 add to negative 1. Well, I know negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. We add them, we get negative 1. Okay, since I had this 3 here, I cannot just write x minus 4 times x plus 3. Do not, do not, do not. If I write this as my answer, first of all, you're going to get it wrong. Second of all, when you're multiplying this out, x times x is x squared. We don't need x squared. We need 3x squared. Just like on the last one, if I would take x times 2x, I get 2x squared. 2x squared was what we needed at the beginning. So do not just put it into x minus 4 times x plus 3. We need to create that box. Now, if you remember to make this box, we're going to rewrite our quadratic here without the middle. So 3x squared goes first, negative 4 goes at the end, so beginning, end. And then in the middle, we use our negative 4 and 3, and we need an x behind it. So now, what do 3x squared and negative 4x have in common? Well, nothing goes into 3 and 4, and I know I can pull an x out. Same thing with these two, 3x and negative 4. Well, 3 and 4 don't have anything in common, but 1 goes into everything. My first box is positive, so it's a positive 1. And they don't have an x in common. All right, now I go to these two boxes, 3x squared and 3x. Well, I can factor out a 3, and they have at least one x. On my next one, negative 4x and negative 4, they have a 4 in common. My top box is negative, so it's a minus. So it factors into 3x minus 4 times x plus 1. Now remember, on our assignment, it's going to be written as x and then something x and then our blanks. So we have to write this one first. So I'm going to write plus 1. So plus 1 goes in my first box. Then I need something in front of x. Well, 3 goes in front of x. So 3 is my second box. And then it needs minus 4 behind it. So I plug in negative 4 into my third box. Do not forget your positives and your negatives on the first and third, or you're going to get it wrong. I've got one more example for you. Okay, so take some time, write this problem down. Pause the video if you need to. I'm going to go ahead and start the x. We're going to take 12 times 15, which is 180. Your calculator might be your best friend when you're doing these. And our b value, our negative 28, goes to the bottom. Now, I've already figured this out. Pause the video if you need to, but I know negative 10 times negative 18 gets me to 180, and I add them, I get negative 28. Okay. Do not write x minus 18 times x minus 10. It does not give you the correct answer. So make a box. Remember, we're rewriting our quadratic here without the middle. So 12x squared is at the beginning, positive 15 is at the end, and my middles now are the middles from the x, which is negative 18, negative 10, and don't forget the x to go with them. Okay, 12 and 18. I know the biggest number that goes into both of those is 6, and they both have an x in common. The biggest number that goes into 10 and 15 is 5. My first box is a negative, so it needs to be negative 5. Then I'm going to look vertically. The biggest number that goes into 12 and negative 10 is 2, and they have an x in common. Let's see, the biggest number that goes into a negative 18 and 15 is 3, and my top box is negative, so I have to make it a negative 3. So now when I factor, we get 2x minus 3 times 6x minus 5. Now, this is more of an example of what you will see on, let's see, Wednesday and Thursday, but I just wanted to give you an idea of what these looked like. Okay, so on Thursday, when you're doing the assignment, your boxes on the computer look a little different, but I'll go over that in the next video with you on Wednesday. Have a great Monday.